Welcome to today's video blog. The topic of today is Performance Max campaigns, a new campaign rollout from Google. Next to me is sitting Lorenzo. He's our head of search, and he will lead us through that very interesting and powerful topic. Welcome, Lorenzo.
Thank you. Hi.
Cool. So maybe just up front, what is Performance Max campaigns? What is that setup?
It's something that Google's kind of launched globally now. It's kind of coming out of beta. And essentially it is Google's take on the omni-channel approach. It's one campaign that covers everything. It's got YouTube, it's got smart shopping, it's got display, it's got search. It's very much heavily machine learning orientated. And while we do put some audience signals in and some factors in, we very much rely on Google to shift budgets around to where they see best. So it's a very interesting campaign that we've started testing.
Yeah, and we've seen some very powerful results. I think even Google announced it as a campaign if you really want to drive performance, which is usually revenue or profitability ROAS, right?
Yeah, we've seen very strong results so far. I think there are some minor downsides, which I think we'll talk about too today. But so far the performance, often we see when we test things that have just launched or come as a first mover, you definitely get an advantage testing it early before the whole market floods it and everyone starts using it. So that's why we always test new things here as they come out, because we get a big advantage by doing so. And we're obviously eager to test the latest trends and techniques. So pretty much you set a target ROAS, you set some audience signals. So it's good to have your customer list to help the machine learn. It's good to have your website visitors and maybe some other segments like keywords that you've seen have worked. And then a lot of it is then just seeing what's working and letting Google figure out where to place the ads, and obviously putting your strongest creative forward, which as you know, we very much are heavy creative focused here, which is very important going forward with more machine learning.
So Google you gave Google one campaign, one target ROAS over several channels, right? So one target ROAS for YouTube search shopping.
Yes.
And then Google allocates the budget.
Yes, so okay. Google will see what's working, what's not working, drive in new users, retarget existing users. And I think what's so powerful about that and this campaign, and it ties into that omni-channel approach that we generally do where we're on all the different platforms. Obviously in this case, it's a Google suite with YouTube and everything. And that user may start on search, they may end up on YouTube. We see the behavior of the customer where they're always on different channels. And when you see the consistency of our message across different channels, that's very powerful, which is, I think, why it's working so well.
Yeah, I think we have one client, or it's actually a venture where we are shareholder, Lichterketten Shop AG, where we saw huge performance uplift. Like maybe if you compare it to our normal shopping search, what is the uplift if you can give us an idea? Yeah,
we've seen probably even a 50-40% increase in performance on that, and there is some talk that it might actually replace smart shopping from next year, where your Performance Max will actually replace some of your existing campaigns. And I think on that note, the downside a little bit of it is we are seeing minor cannibalization of other campaigns where the Performance Max is now taking a lot of the budget and other campaigns aren't serving out. We'll see if Google fixes this. It's not a major issue, but just something that we need to be aware of. But so far, we've only really seen positives from testing it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it makes somehow sense that if you have one campaign where you have all the channels in and then you have separate campaigns running, do they bid also against each other, or?
That is another potential downside. It's not impossible that happens, but normally Google will prioritize newer campaigns. Like if you had a smart shopping and a normal shopping, smart shopping will show. So now I believe the same with Performance Max, where it will actually prioritize that. which in my opinion is why it's quite important to be testing it, or maybe competitors who are using it are potentially showing higher in the auctions than you, just by utilizing a new Google tool, which is why it's so important to test these things and be on top of the trends like we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I like especially is that Google announces it as a performance campaign. So if you really want to drive revenue ROAS, then it's something to try out. Yeah, cool. So we will probably further roll it out. What is maybe the outlook? What do you think the Google universe will look in 6 months when it comes to Performance Max?
I think we are definitely seeing more consolidation where one campaign is covering multiple channels. We saw that with smart shopping, where we're getting slightly less control, and it's also then becoming quite creative heavy. And obviously the optimizations are still important, adjusting target roses and just letting Google do the heavy lifting on times of day to bid and those kind of things, but we take on the other important aspects. I do think it will probably replace smart shopping in the future, where this will be more your full suite as far as e-commerce goes, and then you'll still have some of your search campaigns where you focus more on keywords that are more specific that to be work, whereas that will drive new users, discover new keywords. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Do we already have experience in how to scale such a campaign, or will we probably talk about that in 2-3 weeks?
I think we always try scale a little bit slowly, just to not shock the system too much. I think Google needs to learn, and if you suddenly scale budgets too much, you may need a week or two to readjust. So we try to do a 20-30% scale, but I think so far, even with scaling, we've still seen really strong performance. So it will be interesting to see how much we can scale it and get it to spend and where it will take us. So.
Yeah. And I mean, eventually there could be Google Ads accounts with only Performance Max campaigns, right? Because it pretty much covers displays. Also retargeting is included, right?
Yeah, I think that's possible. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think there'll always be place for the more specific search terms and maybe display where you only want to do customers, but it will be interesting to see if we go towards a completely consolidated campaign with everything in it, where it becomes more focus on adjustments on bidding and creative, which is definitely, as we know, very important going forward.
Yeah. I mean, similar trends are obviously happening everywhere on Facebook as well. CBO rollout is I mean, it's not as heavy, but it's also you let the algorithm decide in which funnel step you bid how much and do the optimization there. So in a nutshell, it goes very marketing creative heavy and let the bidding, the AI and the machines do, right?
Yeah, I think the machines are definitely doing more of the heavy lifting for us as far as bidding, and that goes times of day, signals, but the creative aspect and those other parts where you need that human touch is still always going to be there, in my opinion. But we'll see where it takes us, but absolutely heading in that direction.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I think then we maybe catch up in 2 weeks with a bit more experience on how to scale and new results. And thank you so much, Lorenzo.
Awesome, thank you.